Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are getting up and feeling well out there this morning, and more importantly, staying safe. We've had some active weather over the last 24 hours, especially yesterday evening in portions of Iowa and Illinois, and then a couple hours ago we had what looked like a pretty much a confirmed tornado in southeast Missouri, well south of St. Louis, but not quite into the Boot Hill, Missouri area, but kind of an area in between. We'll get confirmation on that, I'm sure, as the sun comes up, but it looked like a clear signal on the radar that there was a tornado on the ground, and by the what we call the CC drop, it certainly looked like it was maybe on the stronger end, maybe an EF2 or higher. But we'll see what what everything looks like as the sun comes up. I'm wishing you folks well. I hope you guys are okay. Been a few tornado warnings in northern and western Arkansas over the last few hours. So hopefully nothing too crazy actually happened, confirmed, but like I said before, we'll see really what's happened as we get into the next few hours and the sun comes up, things like that. But hopefully everybody's faring well out there. This morning, active weather continues this morning and will continue over the next, I would say, 18 hours at least. So, and that's what we're here to do. We're going to give you a severe weather update on what's going to happen today. I would say more highly populated areas are going to be in the threat zone today. So we certainly need to discuss what could potentially happen, and we will do that here. First off, I want to mention, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank y'all for the amazing support over the last few days. I've had to muscle my way through some videos, a lot of coughing, really dry throat, and yeah, I blame it on allergies, but I think a big reason is yeah, a little bit of that. I don't have a lot of allergy issues, but I think it's just some the changing of the season, spring, things like that. Not really sick, but I think just talking so much has really aggravated my throat. It's kind of like when you go hoarse, but my throat has been really dry. But I'm feeling fine. So, I'm a little tired, but, just tired just like any other person in life. So, but life is good. I will say that. But if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below, and I'll pray over it, and others will too. It's a family type atmosphere here, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. For sure. If you ever consider joining the channel, the join tab should be under the video. I haven't mentioned that in a couple weeks, but I got 20, 28, something like that, incredible members that support my channel monthly, and it really goes a long way, especially as we enter the slower months coming up into the summer. So thank y'all for people who do that or have ever even considered doing that. With that being said, let's get rolling. The intro has dragged on for 3 minutes. And I know that's not everybody's favorite, but upper trough has really dug into the western U.S. and we got this low pressure up here. A lot of weather still ongoing. You see the wider colors on your screen. That's where we have explosive thunderstorm development. Even though it's the morning time, we still have all the ingredients for explosive thunderstorms. We have some, kind of right around where Illinois, Kentucky, and Missouri meet. This cluster of storms this morning produced a tornado in southeast Missouri. And all this energy will eventually make its way into areas of the Ohio Valley, and then eventually even areas of the interior Northeast, and then areas of southern Ontario and even Michigan today. Southern Ontario, I know I don't talk much on Canada, but mentioning Canada, there's some very nice people. I haven't had one rude comment from anybody in Canada. You guys are always so nice. And I really appreciate y'all folks up there. Maybe one of these days I can cover Canada if I get more time, but a lot of active weather today across this entire region. I don't have my cursor pulled up. This entire region right into here. So that's what we'll break down. Watches, warnings, advisories. And the yellow here, still got tornado watches up. This pink color, that is severe thunderstorm watches. This tan color, that's wind advisories. Even got some flood watches up here in Michigan. But a lot of areas could get a lot of rain over the next 24 to 48 hours as basically the tail end of this boundary stalls out. A lot of moist air remains deep in the south. It's just getting to that time of the year where these cold fronts don't fully clear everybody in the south anymore. They still do at times, but the jet stream on average begins to shift a little bit further north. Therefore, you don't get any more, cold air intrusions anymore. So it's just the changing of the seasons. We all know that. But we'll see what happens later today, as we definitely expect some tornado watches to be issued a little bit further east, a little bit further downstream. The Storm Prediction Center update, no moderate risk as of 6:31 Eastern Time, 5:31 in Central Time. This could change. We'll see if a moderate risk gets issued. If it does, it'll be somewhere up here in Indiana, maybe northeast Ohio, maybe even far southern Michigan. If we get anything, it'll be in this region. But huge enhanced risk, which spans all the way from Memphis all the way up to Detroit into central sections of Michigan. I would not be surprised if an enhanced risk maybe gets expanded a little bit further into the western sections of New York State. We're going to break down all these regions, get detail like we've been doing over the last few days, and try to figure this out for you folks. Tornado threat, it is slimmed down somewhat. We have a 10% risk of a tornado, which basically spans from, from areas of just about in the, Effingham, Newton, Robinson, areas of eastern Illinois, all the way through the Indianapolis area in Indiana. And basically everybody in Indianapolis points north in the state of Indiana have a 10% risk, and not only a tornado, but also a 10% risk of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher, within 25 miles in any given location. You get into the Ohio area, northeast Ohio, Toledo, Findlay, Lima. If I do mispronounce anything, just let me know. Defiance, Bowling Green, you guys, Archbold, Bryan. I'm trying to mention a lot of small communities. But anyways, basically the entire northeast quadrant of Ohio has a 10% risk of a strong tornado. Okay, and then you get into southern sections of Michigan, and it's shrunk a little bit. They really have shrunk the confidence down, but this does include Detroit, and this includes the southern branch of Ontario also, but Detroit, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, not quite to Grand Rapids, but you'll still have a tornado threat today, and everybody in between, Jackson, Adrian, Hillsdale, everybody in this region, probably the Lansing area also, a 10% risk of not only a tornado, but a strong tornado. 5% risk in this Brown area of everybody else. There will be a chance for winds pushing 55 or 60 miles per hour today in this 30% risk area. You have a 30% risk of that within 25 miles in any given location. That includes the entire enhanced region. And then the hail threat today, especially this morning into early afternoon. Please watch out for large hail, basically in this area that has the 10% risk of a tornado. But not only is there a 30% risk of hail pushing 1 inch diameter in this red area, there's also a 10% risk of larger hail and 2 inch in diameter or larger in this region. So that's the Storm Prediction Center threat levels. Excuse me, guys. Just want to keep the throat less dry, if you will, because we're going to dig deep into this. Let's talk about Louisiana first, because we do need to talk about the southern extent of this slight risk down here in eastern Texas and northern Louisiana. Don't just want to leave you guys hanging down here. So, this morning, there is, if you look at radar right now, there's a tornado warning just got issued in northwest Arkansas. We'll talk about Arkansas in a second. Like I said, I told you the last 2 videos that I thought we would wake up this morning to some pretty active weather, and sure enough, we are. Not a whole lot going on in Louisiana right now, but we expect as we work our way throughout the morning. Timestamp wise, always look over here. I know it's really small on your screen. Trust me, I get it, but there's no real great way to make this bigger without going through my entire video after I'm done and spending literally an hour or two editing a timestamp into every single frame that I do, and I just don't have a lot of time for that, guys. Unfortunately, maybe one of these days. But it's 8 a.m. so this is in Central Time. This time up here is in Eastern Time, but we back it up 1 hour, so we're at 8 a.m. Cluster of storms that will continue to work its way through Eastern Texas, and we're only going to talk about Louisiana. I would say right around lunchtime, some storms kind of begin to fall apart in eastern Texas, but then we'll see if they rejuvenate here in southeast Texas. And I mean, look at this cell down here in southeast Texas. Please watch out down here. I know you're lacking kinematics, so I doubt this thing will be spinning too much. But the Beaumont area, just anywhere down here, Jasper, even Lake Charles. Watch out for these little. I know Lake Charles is over here, but just watch out for any kind of cluster of storms that develops. These will continue, and then we get into about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and I really think with a stalled boundary, you're just going to have a line of trailing storms from back, just southwest of Houston, all the way through Louisiana. And this continues. I mean, this is a pretty big storm down here in southeast Texas that could potentially pop up, really thermodynamic driven off high moisture in the atmosphere and warmer temperatures. Be a very warm day in the eastern U.S. today. You keep this going, you got to watch out for the severe weather threat into Mississippi also. At this point, we're about 6 p.m. You got some clusters of severe storms. Not a huge tornado threat with these, but damaging wind, maybe some hail is certainly possible around Jackson later this afternoon. You keep this going, these clusters of storms could strengthen into the afternoon, evening hours around 8 p.m. Watch out central, the heart of Mississippi. These might even knock on the doorstep of areas like Meridian a little bit later this evening. And then some more clusters of storms just continue. I think it's going to be a very wet next 24 hours, starting a little bit later this morning into the overnight hours for Louisiana. But these storms continue, and they just keep going over the same areas. At this point, we're around midnight tonight, still storms developing, and even more storms develop. And you can actually tell how this cold front, the stall boundary, actually trends back north as the corridor of rain shifts back north. So some wet times over the next 24 hours. And, the National Weather Service is going for, maybe 2.5 inches of rain for the Shreveport area. Okay, basically all of northern Louisiana, Monroe, places like that, Monroe, Louisiana, over here to all the small towns and communities here in extreme. Eastern Texas could see a lot of rain, and even some rain here in central and definitely in northern Mississippi today. Not much of a tornado threat, guys, but you can't completely rule it out. I'm sure if you look at the updraft helicity swath here, does show some spinners, especially I would say as we work our way over the next few hours, definitely. But the low-level jet kind of flees the region, what we call the low-level flow. So you're lacking the wind profiles, the favorable winds basically in the upper levels of the atmosphere above our heads for any kind of big-time spin with any of these storms. But we'll still watch out for sure. Moving up to Tennessee and Kentucky. I know that, areas of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio is on your screen, but we're going to focus in on Kentucky and Tennessee. And we're going to have a entirely different section here coming up for you folks, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So please hold tight there. Let's talk about Kentucky and Tennessee. We'll keep going. At this point, we're around 8 a.m. Remember, back it up 1 hour. Moving through in time, and I want to remind you, somebody reminded me in the other video, and that everything you're seeing isn't exact. It's just a model run, and it gives us an idea of how the evolution of these storms can unfold. So I do want to remind you, if you see a storm exactly over your county in Kentucky at 4 p.m. on this map, that doesn't mean you're going to have a storm exactly over your county. This is just guidance. Model runs are just guidance. They just help us along the way. We don't know exactly what's going to happen until it does, right? But we're going to try to keep you guys prepared. So remember, we're focusing in on Kentucky and Tennessee. So we'll watch a little bit later. We're getting into about lunchtime. I think a pretty substantial cluster of storms begin to make their way. And I want to note, there is a cluster of storms already kind of over here in Missouri and places like that are working their way through the state of Missouri. Okay, but the leftover energy will kind of rejuvenate and actually get stronger. So, Mayfield, Paducah areas, Dyersburg, down here, even Jackson, Clarksville. You guys could get some storms early in the afternoon. These storms will start to knock on the door of Evansville, Indiana, Louisville, probably, right in the middle of the afternoon. How much does this hold together, and how much of a tornado threat's embedded with this line? Once you work your way a little bit further north, a little bit further northeast, you get into a better low-level flow. So basically, the further you make your way up this way, the better what we call kinematics is in place for a tornado threat. But damaging winds and a large hail threat still exist with this. But just remember that there's going to be an embedded tornado threat with this, okay? Even some discrete supercells embedded in this line of kind of a linear storms, if you will. Linear meaning just a line of storms. But you continue to work your way through. You get into about 4 p.m. Storms are making their way through about central areas of Kentucky. A lot of rain. And this boundary really slows down, just like it did to the south and how I was just breaking down. Really slows down. And look at this nasty storm down here just outside of Nashville. that can potentially be there. And then some storms begin to enter the southern sections of Tennessee. And yeah, basically I think central Tennessee will have the potential for maybe even a supercell or two. Supercell meaning a rotating thunderstorm, not necessarily producing a tornado, but could be rotating down here in central sections of Tennessee, which include like the Nashville area, places like that. So these clusters of storm could enter central to eastern sections of Kentucky. You know, if you're in the Lexington area, I would say you could get a couple rounds of storms. One later in the afternoon, maybe another later in the evening. But you stop it right here. We only can go about 18 hours out. And you still got storms ongoing. But if I bring it back to the 06Z, this would continues into the overnight hours. We're at midnight at this point. Still clusters of thunderstorms. I think these will lose the severity component to them. But I really do think that they could still reach strong to severe limits even as we get into midnight. So I think a really stormy afternoon and then overnight is expected for Tennessee and Kentucky for sure. And then these areas, I mean, we're still going. I mean, we get all the way to 6 a.m. Let's take it to 7 a.m. tomorrow for Thursday morning. I mean, there could be a sneaky flooding risk. In fact, you look at the National Weather Service forecast for this area between now and tomorrow at 7 a.m., the western half of Tennessee, 1 to 2, maybe 2.5 inches of rain. Same thing with Kentucky. A lot of rain can fall in these regions. Okay, just with a stalled boundary, just watch out. I believe there is a slight risk of excessive flooding in this region, which means you have a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met. So it's something to watch out for, okay? The updraft helicity swath, as of right now, this only takes us out to, about 9 p.m. But, watch out. These cells a little bit later this evening in Tennessee. There's a strong signal. That doesn't mean it's going to be there, but the HRRR model is basically picking up on maybe some cells popping off here, and they could be rotating. Remember, just because you see these yellows and reds doesn't mean there's a tornado on the ground. But please be aware of this, guys. And, you look at the significant tornado parameter, and it's not super high today. I think it's the highest in the mornings, really. But it will certainly be there. Anything over a 1 is considered an environment favorable for a tornado. But obviously, 1 being the lowest, once you get higher, the environment, is being predicted to be better by what we call the STP, which is significant tornado parameter. It just kind of tries to help us symbolize where and show us where the best ingredients for a tornado may be. And it's not going to be that great in this region, but there's still a threat. Okay, so let's talk about us folks up here in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Okay, so and not to leave you guys hanging in Arkansas and places like that. We'll actually go to Fort Smith, I believe. There's some nasty weather that continues to make its way through this area. You have a tornado-warned storm right here that's moving over Berryville, Arkansas right now. And, if you look at the velocity scan, it's kind of out of range here. But, there's a pretty clear signal that this thing's either rotating or actually on the ground. But I really think it's going to continue to be active over the next several hours in Arkansas. So I really should have, had a panel pulled up for you guys. In fact, I might do that after this. I might just do it on the fly for you folks. But let's talk about Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, since we already have it up. This energy from Missouri and Arkansas will continue to kind of feed into the area. So we already have some ongoing storms right now for a good chunk of the states of Illinois. These will continue. Let's get this in motion right here. This will continue. So I'm starting it off around 7 a.m. It's about 5:45 a.m. Right now in Illinois and all these and everybody you see on the map. We'll keep this going here. Cluster of storms continue. I would say that the threat for severe weather for Chicago, later this morning to the afternoon has dropped, as it looks like most of the convection will work its way to the east by then. But, we go up here and talking about, southern sections of Illinois. Anything south of these boundary of storms could produce a quick spin up. So we're around 8 a.m. at this point. Very stormy conditions. Basically from Bloomington, Champaign, Springfield, point south. You're dealing with some nasty storms, damaging wind threat, hail threat, and a tornado threat. Somebody said that you say hell the same way as like hell, like Hell, but Actually never known that there's an actual difference to say it. I just say hell and hell. But it's cracked me up. A couple people mentioned that. But you're getting into around the 9 a.m. time frame, and I really think there'll be a linear kind of cluster of storms that really gets going here in kind of the southern sections of Illinois, Effingham, Mount Vernon, Carbondale. Stormy late morning for you folks. And then these storms will try to enter, they will enter Indiana. I think you folks up here in Gary, Indiana, will definitely be in for a pretty stormy late morning. And like I said, this could produce heavy rain, torrential downpours, a large hail threat, and a tornado threat. It's hard to know exactly who's going to see a tornado, but I can almost guarantee you that somebody is going to see some spin-ups today. You're getting into Indiana, which I think is, especially northern and northeast Indiana. This is where we got to watch. We get into about 10 a.m., clusters of storms, basically moving over the entire northern Indiana area. Indianapolis, I'll say that you start to see some rocky weather, maybe like the main cluster of weather. I would say late morning around lunchtime, this moves in. And I know this doesn't really look like discrete supercells by any means, but there could be embedded tornadoes in this line of storms. Okay, and I mean, you're even getting into 12 p.m., around lunchtime at this point, and you still got some nasty storms blasting through the southern sections of Illinois. Down here near, like I said, Harrisburg, Carbondale, places like that, and even southern sections. I mean, at this point, you have an atmosphere that's destabilizing ahead of this line, and you certainly run the risk of damaging winds and a tornado. But you keep this going. This continues to make its way through southern Indiana. And, this makes its way into Ohio. And to me, this looks like more so just a straight line risk of storms. But I'm telling you, there's going to be some spinning storms in this area today. A little bit later this afternoon. We're around lunchtime. So this is going to crank up over the next several hours. So in the near term, Toledo, Defiance, Bowling Green, Ottawa, Findlay, places like that up here. Fort Wayne, Indiana, I think you'll get some really bad weather probably around lunchtime, maybe give or take an hour. But this blasts through northwest Ohio, into the early afternoon hours. And what I'm concerned with in this cluster right here is some embedded, supercells in this cluster of convection storms. So I think unfortunately, if we get any tornadoes today, they're going to be rain wrapped, meaning it's kind of like the one I saw in Missouri this morning. You're not going to see these. They're going to be shrouded in rain, and, it's going to look like a blob of rain coming toward you. They're going to be hard to see. And that's what I think the tornado threat will be as far as a visual aspect to it today. But you continue to get into the Ohio area. These storms blast through central Ohio, Cleveland, down here to Columbus, Dayton, starting to affect Cincinnati. Probably 1 to 3 p.m. But, it looks like the line begins to weaken somewhat. But please just note, even though it just looks like a line of storms, the tornado threat does exist in this. And this blast through Ohio, then after this, you just get some, just some rain. And then we could have some storms that really get going in West Virginia a little bit later this evening. We'll talk about that here in a second. But then, this looks like the cold front to me that passes through. I don't expect much of a severe weather threat with that, but we'll certainly watch. The updraft helicity swath here, and we can actually get some updated information. Oof. Wow. So the latest run really enhanced the tornado threat based off a model run, the HRRR model. And that's not a good look, I'll be honest. So basically the southern half of Illinois over the next few hours, Indiana, extreme southern sections of Michigan, and the northern sections of Ohio. The HRRR model is the same. Between now and 10 p.m. tonight, there is going to be a solid tornado threat in this region. That really increased. Wow. Yeah, we need to watch out for this, guys. Watch out for any kind of uptrends. It's just one model run, but, still. If you actually look at the significant tornado parameter, it's not loud or anything like that. But remember, anything over a 1 is considered conditions favorable for a tornado. But I mean, you start off 8 a.m. I mean, you even got conditions down here that are favored. You got, 5 or 6 down here on the STP legend. And then it gets into Indiana. And then there's going to be a tornado threat up here in Michigan. We're going to talk about Michigan here in a second. But I quickly want to mention, I think we definitely need to mention Arkansas. I did not kind of mean to leave you guys hanging here, but we need to talk about Arkansas because there is still some, and southern Missouri, there's still some nasty weather back here. Over the next, excuse me, let me take a little sip. Over the next few hours, you do have clusters of storms ongoing. So, I just mentioned this just a second ago, but these cells look dangerous, and they most likely are dangerous right now in northwest Arkansas. Right here in some higher elevations. We'll get this in motion here. So we need to continue to watch this. If we don't know where we are, we'll zoom out. This is Arkansas. This is northwest Arkansas, Springfield up here. These storms will enter this section of Missouri right in here over the next couple hours, and then eventually into southern sections of Illinois. And I'm telling you, this is that look that I was worrying about. And these storms are cranking up. The only thing that we can hope for, and I think there's a solid chance of this happening, is that these storms cluster up and turn more into a line of storms. I think that would drop the tornado threat. But you got some ongoing tornado warnings right now, and there might be a tornado on the ground. We'll look at the velocity scan here. Pretty strong rotation with this storm up near Berryville. And you need to watch out if you're in Ponca, Arkansas, up to Harrison, Arkansas. Please watch out. And by the time some of you folks watch this video, this will not be a threat. But I'm just the main reason I'm showing you this is because this is what the storms look like. And this one down here looks like it's starting to get that look. So these will eventually make its way into this section of Arkansas over the next couple hours. Watch out, Poplar Bluff up to Farmington. You guys already had look like a tornado on the ground in this region right here in Missouri this morning. Somewhere into here, I think, had a tornado this morning. We'll see what it looks like and hear about here in the coming hours. But these are some dangerous storms into here. So let's see how they can unfold. The HRRR model is not doing that great of a job. It has more of a cluster of storms, but it does symbolize the convection. It shows it. And as we keep going, these lines of storms, maybe semi-discrete, probably semi-discrete supercells, will be plaguing northern Arkansas, southern Missouri over the next few hours, all the way into about 9, 10, 11 a.m. And, I think as we're getting to about 1 p.m., I think the biggest tornado threat will certainly leave southern Missouri. But watch out Arkansas, as we'll still have some ongoing convection that keeps going. And even sections of northern Mississippi need to watch out. But please watch out over the next several hours in northern Arkansas and southern Missouri. There is a heightened tornado threat in this region for sure. Let's talk about you folks up here in Michigan. And, moving through here in the next few hours, and let's actually switch it to the latest run. We'll start it off around 7 a.m. Central Time. You already got ongoing, showers and storms. But this is going to be more clustered up in nature up here. So it's around 10 a.m. It looks like just a big blob of yellow and red. But this is where the best kinematics are, meaning your best atmospheric players for a spin up in the atmosphere. So there's going to be some spinners in this convection, the potential for a tornado. It just is a sloppy storm mode. But man, watch out down here in Detroit and all surrounding towns and communities as we're getting into about lunchtime to 1 to 2 p.m. There could be some dangerous storms to work through the town and the cities in this region here in southeast Michigan early this afternoon, here in the next several hours. Please be aware. But after that, I really think, and don't get me wrong, as we get into 4 or 5 p.m., I think as this leftover convection moves through, there could be a tornado threat with these clusters of storms right here. As we get into this afternoon, watch out Grand Rapids all the way up to, the Midland area, Flint, Lansing, and East Lansing. These storms could produce a quick spin up in this region. So don't let your guard down after the morning and early afternoon convection. We got to watch out for that too. And already some snow already entering parts of the state and the UP and Michigan. But the updraft Felicity swath here. Let's go to the latest run. And really a lot of the state of Michigan, it doesn't show much in the way of a lot of rotating thunderstorms, and I think that's why they shrunk the 10% risk of a tornado a little bit further south. But I mean, extreme southern sections of Michigan, southeast Michigan, please watch out in and around the Detroit area. I'm telling you, Ann Arbor, Toledo, Ohio, there could be there's just enough what we call thermodynamics down here, enough warming to the atmosphere and enough surface moisture, and in response, enough CAPE to fuel these thunderstorms down here. So please be careful down there. We'll talk about New York State and surrounding other states. Not much going on this morning, but as we work our way into, I would say, midday today, some storms begin to enter off Lake Erie, Ontario, and not to leave you guys hanging in southern areas of Ontario, but I really think, southern areas of Ontario could certainly see some nasty storms as early as later this morning. But as we're moving through here, cluster of storms work its way off, Lake Ontario and Erie, start to hit these towns and communities, Watertown, Syracuse. I don't think these will pack much of a punch, but some gusty winds possible. But what I'm really watching for is when we get into this afternoon, a cluster of storms that come off Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, blast Buffalo around 4 or 5 p.m., work their way through the Finger Lakes region. There's going to be some big storms down here in Pennsylvania also, where you have a marginal and slight risk. And I really do think there will be a chance of some storms that could hit severe limits down here. But I think you will have a little bit of certainly a tornado threat down in this region. But I think damaging winds is certainly need to watch for, especially if these storms cluster up and these are knocking on the door of Binghamton around 8 p.m. and kind of riding through the state of Pennsylvania. And then I think they lose some steam after that. Definitely want to mention, let's see, we can pull up here really quick. Want to mention West Virginia. As we get a little bit later this afternoon, I do think some storms could fire up even in northern VA. Even in western Maryland, you could have some storms that fire up. There's going to be some big-time heating in this region. So a lot of thermodynamics. There's definitely a displacement between thermodynamics and kinematics in this place. So not a lot of winds aloft, favorable low-level flow for any tornado development. But there's a well-known storm chaser here in Virginia that seems to catch a lot of crazy storms. So, if you're going to see any severe weather, there's going to be somebody in the state. His name's Peter. He will see it in this region. But watch out, eastern areas of West Virginia, northern VA, western Maryland, and to southern areas of Pennsylvania. You guys could certainly see some storms today that could reach severe limits. A tornado threat, it'll be there. But really a threat of all hazards, just on a smaller scale, if you will. So temperatures will be incredibly warm today. One of the warmest days of the year for a lot of people. I'm talking about 80s all the way into the southern tier of New York State. Widespread 80s, not just 80s, but upper 80s. Somebody might hit 90 degrees in the coastal plains of the Carolinas and southeast Georgia. Definitely some 90-degree readings in Florida, but very warm. But you can see where the boundary is. But highs today, it'll feel like kind of early summer here in the southeast for sure. Hard to say summer because that's temperatures in the low to mid 90s with miserable humidity. So there will be a chance of storms tomorrow, guys. A marginal risk. I could see this uptrending to a slight risk or the moderate risk really connecting right in here. We'll have some thermodynamic driven storms, meaning intense heating and humidity in the area. I think will fire up the chance for more widespread strong storms. We'll see how this plays out. That's all I got. Stay safe today. A lot of active weather ongoing right now. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you this evening.